Good evening and welcome to another edition of Resource PNG. Over the last 38 years since independence, Papua New Guinea has adopted a model of development that has conflicted with the guiding values and principles stipulated in the National Constitution, a vision expressed by PNG's founding fathers. Tonight we feature a documentary showcasing how PNG will realign its development roadmap to link with the wisdom of the past. This is a paradigm shift in PNG that will convert from a brown to a green economy. Forward thinking is the key for plans to be successful. It is the gift of foresight. The desired outcome paints a pathway of steps to follow to reach the desired destination. In the case of a country's national development, the concept is no different. Long-term planning of where a country aspires to be sets out its development roadmap. The preamble of the National Constitution of the independent state of Papua New Guinea is one of the most profound pieces of literature belonging to the country. It is an expression of hope, freedom and respect to the customs and traditions of PNG's ancestors, as well as the Christian values that have become an integral part of PNG society. Within the National Constitution are ideals of a new nation, what was envisioned by the founding fathers of PNG, the desired country they dreamed of for future generations to live in, depicted the heart of PNG ways. Principles based on respect for others, community well-being, Christian values, affinity with the natural environment, sharing of wealth for communal benefit and not individual gain, obligations to families, clans and tribes, and pride in PNG culture. These are values that embody the Papua New Guinean man, woman and child. These values spell out PNG's national goals and directive principles that speak of integral human development, equality and participation, national sovereignty and self-reliance, responsible management of natural resources, and Papua New Guinean ways. But the reality of environmental destruction for the development of extractive resources, the exploitation of trees for logs, the overfishing of PNG seas for tuna, the disunity between family units, the mockery of Christian foundations, the pursuit of economic gain for individual greed. This reality is a far cry from the ideal PNG that was envisioned. This quest for development over the last 38 years since PNG became an independent state in 1975 has diverted from the pathway originally premeditated, a pathway guided by PNG's founding values. Instead, in response to the fast-changing times, PNG has chosen a Western model of development that conflicts its traditional ways, PNG traditional ways that have been practiced for centuries. This model of development has been driven by unsustainable concepts of brown economic growth. In light of this reality, it has become apparent that the wisdom of PNG's forefathers is the way forward for PNG to grasp a development model that is truly in union with PNG's founding principles. Tuesday, April 1st, 2014, historically marked this realization. the redefining of PNG's roadmap to development. A significant day for PNG's future when youth of Alatars Cameron Secondary High School delivered to Prime Minister Peter O'Neill a strategy that embodies the future PNG's forefathers once dreamt of. A future that today's youth speak of.
Symbolic that the business we're getting, or people that are making this brand entrance. Ladies and gentlemen, as they enter, I just want to narrate a few explanations to what's happening. A conch shell, when it is blown, it sends a message out to the people who are expecting the visit from those that are visiting. And so, Minister Charles Abel and Honorable Prime Minister, the blowing of the conch shell and this visitation is making the announcement they are indeed coming with something in their hands to present to us. You will know that behind the national flag of Papua New Guinea is a canoe. This canoe is called the Masawa. The Masawa is a canoe of prestige and honor for the clans that own it, and its main use is always restricted for cooler trade only. People use this Masawa only when they are carrying an important wealth or an item. The capabilities of the canoe are displayed in the prow board that is at the front of the canoe. The carvings on the canoe are very significant in Kula culture in that they depict the features of gods of our ancestors. They are prominently featured on the carvings. It is our belief that this will ensure safe journeys across uncharted waters and other natural hazards. The featuring of the way the canoes are also shaped and constructed and the rituals that are involved in the construction ensure that canoes trading trips will always be successful and will bear fruit. So the expectation that this canoe has sailed and has brought the strategy to us, being received by young people of this nation, represented by Barbara Thomas, is a statement that she received it and she presented it to the Prime Minister with expectation.
The National Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development, otherwise known as the Strategy, is an addendum to PNG's 20-year plan, the PNG Development Strategic Plan 2010 to 2030. This strategy seeks to undertake a paradigm shift by redefining PNG's development roadmap from a brown economy to green economic growth. Presenting the strategy to Prime Minister Peter O'Neill on behalf of the youth of PNG was The Voice Inc., a youth development organization that empowers young people to be agents of positive social change.
The Milne team, there are children dressed in clothes that represent the 4 regions of the country. The Highlands region, the Northern region, the Islands region, and the Southern region. Together, collectively, these young people have brought in the strategy. My friends, the other significant message here is that oftentimes when younger siblings or young children want to ask or request something of their father and mother, and if because they're too young they are not able to make direct representation to their parents, they will always ask their older sibling, like Barbara standing here, to receive their request on their behalf and present it to their father. And that's the reason why Barbara has received this, if you like, this strategy from her younger siblings. I will now hand it over to her to make a speech, and formally present this strategy to our Honorable Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Barbara, please.
I believe that it is an exciting time to be a Papua New Guinean. I believe that this nation is in a time of transition where we are pausing to redefine ourselves as a nation and to identify our place in this growing global village. As mentioned earlier, I work for an organization called The Voice Inc., an organization created and run by passionate young Papua New Guineans. Many times I am confronted by many people who ask me, what is The Voice all about? Are you the voice of the voiceless? Are you a talent company? Or are you a singing group? We get that a lot. I usually go about defining The Voice as an organization that works to assist young people to find their personal significance, to help them discover their special purpose by helping them to identify their values, their beliefs, their passions, and what makes them uniquely them. We believe that all people have a purpose in life, a special call, a unique voice that can only be theirs and no one else's. We teach young people how to find that voice and how they can use that to contribute in meaningful ways to their communities, nation, and also the world, because we firmly believe that Papua New Guineans can add value on a global scale, as we already are. We believe that the same is true for our nation, that as a nation we are finding our voice again, and that this strategy is critical in the process of awakening the voices of many that lie dormant. We believe that we are now taking hold of our future by standing on the shoulders of our fathers, my grandfathers, who went before us and showed us the way. We are once again reminding ourselves of who we are and what it means to be Papua New Guineans. I take you back to our founding fathers of this great nation, and I would like to take a moment to honor the vision that they had for Papua New Guinea. I imagine them sitting in the historical Constitution House on Motopura Island as they wrote out their vision for the future, embodied in the 5 national goals and directive principles. I cannot help but imagine the type of PNG that they envisioned in their mind. It is amazing how they saw a nation where development of a whole person was of paramount importance, where every person had equal opportunities to be involved in that process of development, where we would be proud to be Papua New Guineans and be self-reliant, and that we recognized and placed value of the significance of our environment, and that we always stay true to our Papua New Guinean roots. The challenge, I believe, my Honorable Prime Minister and leaders of this great nation, is to secure our future today by creating the enabling environments for us, the next generation, to stand on and achieve our dreams and aspirations. The challenge is to create a pathway that is uniquely ours, so that we, the next generation, will be able to stand tall in this big global village and say we are proud Papua New Guineans. And in the coming years, when you hand the mantle of leading this nation to us, you will be proud of the pathway that you have created for us. You will leave us the foundation for us to build upon and bring this nation into its next phase of development. I will now take this opportunity to call on Devin and Lisa, two inspiring young leaders that I work with at The Voice. And as you may have noticed, and as Professor Misty had alluded, you would have noticed the young people, children of all ages, as young as 5 all the way to high school students, carrying this plan in. And it is a plan that we want to take we want the government to take seriously. And by being here, we understand that you take our future seriously. You know, and by launching this plan and making this plan happen, as so many of our leaders have expressed that they have shown their support to and commitment to making this plan work, we hope that today would mark a special occasion in our history of this nation, where we redefine ourselves and we create something that will unite us as Papua New Guineans and something that will make us proud as Papua New Guineans.
You're with Resource PNG. In the previous segments, we've seen how PNG has strayed from its development pathway, guided by the National Constitution. In a bid to get PNG back on track and supporting the strategy, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill launched the strategy that will redefine PNG's future development. In show of his support towards this development revolution, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill launched the strategy, which comes under the 72 key priorities set in the Alotau Accord, when the O'Neill-Dion government was formed in 2012. One of the key priorities of the Alotau Accord was to review the country's development plans.
After listening to the young lady speaking on behalf of many other young people in Papua New Guinea, I think you can say with me that our future is very secure. They speak so passionately about what sort of country they aspire to live in and work in. And I think the message is very clear. And that is that we as leaders must work together in building that nation for them. It's always a pleasure for all members of government to visit Milne Bay province because it has got an emotional attachment to many of us. This is where we actually formed the government in 2012. And this is where we also had a development of our blueprint, which will guide our government in addressing many of our development agendas in the country. That is now what is known as the Alotau Accord. In Alotau Accord, we made a deliberate decision that we needed to review many of the plans that entails the development roadmap for our nation. We decided at that time to review the strategic assets and how we manage those assets. And of course, look at the strengths and the weaknesses and the opportunities and threats that are before us in our nation. Many governments since self-government in 1972, some 40 years ago, has developed many plans. Recently, we developed what we call now Vision 2050, and of course, followed by the Development Strategic Plan and the medium-term development plans. These plans included priority impact projects and linking them to the budget programs of any government and aligning many of that to the parliamentary life of a government. So today, the launching of the National Strategy for a Responsible Sustainable Development that I am asked to launch today is again a product of that review that we said that we will do in 2012 Alotau Accord. This will become an addendum to the Development Strategic Plan 2030. It has been endorsed by our government through the National Executive Council for its full implementation. So I want to acknowledge the work of the Minister for National Planning and of course the Department of National Planning and all the other agencies of government who were involved in this process of developing this strategy for us. I know that it will link to the medium-term development plan for the government. And I understand that the strategy calls for the all-of-government's approach into the implementation of our development plans for our nation using our strategic assets that we have, such as forestry, fisheries, agriculture, of course, water and clean energy. I know that we also need to make strategic interventions in crucial areas like population, where we need to stabilize the growth of population with a better policy, together with the introduction of our national identification program that is being rolled out at present, and establishment of policies and programs such as Green Development Fund, and the initiatives of the biofuel development and carbon credits are some of the programs that government is embarking on. This is a strategy that identifies what can be delivered to the nation in a manner that is attainable rather than having plans that we are not able to deliver to our nation. When I look at all these plans, I'm reminded of our forefathers, those who went forward in developing our Constitution. When they met in 1974, there's an excerpt in the chapter 2 of that Constitutional Planning Committee meeting, which, and I quote, stresses very carefully that we leaders and the people must know where we want to go before we can decide how we want to get there. I believe that statement underscores what this government's resolve in trying to make sure that we develop our country and bring our people to the much higher level of development that they expect. We can achieve that by working together, making sure that our government and our people follow the same path and being responsible enough to do it in a responsible manner and that is sustainable for the long term. Whilst the Vision 2050 wants to transform our nation and our society into a smart, wise, fair, and healthy society, and the Development Strategic Plan attempts to translate that into an achievable outcome through a range of policies and programs, I think there is a missing link. And this is where this strategy fits in. Our country and our economy has, over the past 40 years, has been relying heavily on the development of our resources in the country. We need to change that focus because we are at the mercy of a cycle that is determined by others when we develop these resources. We are subjected to the fluctuations of mineral prices, demand and supply. Many of the issues globally determine many of those issues. So as government, we now need to build a new economy that is responsible and sustainable, and that is pragmatic to the needs of our people and our country. We do not need to follow the rest of the world. We need to do what we have been doing as a society for thousands of years. We are now going to launch this strategy, and I want to say that it is a strategy that this government is committed to. This is a responsible government, and I understand this is a very responsible strategy. I want to assure the Minister that you have the support of many of your colleagues, and that support was indicated in Cabinet when he brought in the submissions for this approval of this strategy, that the Cabinet has given its full endorsement. And I look forward to the implementation of this development strategy for the country, and it gives me great pleasure now to officially launch this strategy for responsible, sustainable development for Papua New Guinea. Thank you, and God bless you.
Spearheaded by the Minister for National Planning and Monitoring, Charles Abel, the National Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development charts a way forward for PNG that aims to be truly strategic in national planning. This smart approach to development corresponds with PNG's guiding goals and directive principles founded in the National Constitution. The strategy allows PNG to lead the way through a development revolution, through recognizing strategic assets that are of global significance. These assets are 7% of the world's biodiversity, 15% of world tuna, the world's third largest rainforests, major river systems, a relatively low population, and over 800 tribes and languages. Minister Abel believes harnessing these strategic assets will pave the way forward for PNG that is unique to PNG ways, instead of copying the Western models of development that have been the practice for the last 38 years.
We've got to understand and recognize what is happening in the rest of the world, and we've got to ask ourselves, given these blessings, how do our strategic assets and circumstances relate in the context of a changing world? My people, the world is changing. Some of these things are fundamentally shifting. We no longer see the forest and the ocean, the biodiversity, in the same way as before. The value of these things has hugely increased in significance. The world is constantly talking about climate security, food and water security, energy security, and biodiversity and environmental capital. These are catch cries every single meeting you go to internationally. And what have we got? We've got all those things over there. We can be solution providers to the rest of the world, not copycats. And let's not fall into the trap of being copycats. Let's not view the forest as just lumps of logs anymore. Let's not just view the ocean as lumps of meat swimming around that we need to get a big net and sweep it all up and consume it today. Make money today. That's the paradigm of the past. And we need to change that. We need to look at our strategic assets. We need to look at how the world is changing, and we need to come up with a strategy that makes us leaders. And as leaders, we become proud Papua New Guineans, because we are leaders, not followers. And we should be leaders. We should be leaders. Why choose not to? Why choose not to when it's all there before us? In this new world, as I say, we can be solution providers. We can create a new type of economy at the same time. We want to be world leaders in responsible development because it corresponds to our true values. And you know what? It makes long-term economic and practical sense. We must always keep in mind there's got to be a commercial foundation to things. We need an economy, and this is also very much about that. We're not talking about sweeping away, and we don't, not going to talk about money and commercialism anymore, no. But what we are talking about under this new economy is actually providing, and we'll realize greater gains because we are recognizing the real value of these strategic assets. So it makes economic and practical sense as well. We want to build a new economy based on these strategic assets and make a personal commitment at all levels to our underlying values. And we need to take immediate and longer-term steps to begin this process under a new strategy. So, the next question is how? How do we begin to activate this strategy, and where do we begin? From the department's perspective, they again, it's a planning department, they're going to have to fiddle around with plans. There's not much else they can do. We've created the strategy now. The next thing is to translate it through the subsequent plans. And so there's a process underway to revise the MTDP, the medium-term development plan, which is our 5-year plan, to begin to recognize this strategy. We also want to adjust the MTDPs, which I've said before, to coincide with the political cycle. And the political cycle, of course, is a 5-year cycle. And the current one will end in 2017. So the department has to quickly revise the MTDP to begin an investment process against the strategy and to coincide it with the 2012 to 2017 political cycle. The other thing which we need to do, and which we are doing, is to construct a planning act such that some of these principles are enshrined in legislation and give us that authority. So Alan Bird and the team, the department, have been tasked to come up with the Planning Act. At a personal level, and this is where it is most important, at a personal level, We have to make that commitment. We've said the pledge to our country, and we must choose to live responsible development. Okay, and it's simple things such as, I take responsibility for my health. I take responsibility for my children. I take personal responsibility for my family, my village, and my environment. That's where it starts. At a national level, we've got to be bold. We've got to do things such as ban the transshipping of tuna catch. Ban the transshipping of tuna catch. What do we do at the moment with this 15% of the world's tuna? We accept some measly fees of some 50 million kina a year, and we allow the international community to come with their big nets and just sweep it all up. We accept a couple of tuna canneries on shore with our ladies standing there for 8 hours a day in their wet dresses, very lowly paid, very bad conditions, and we call this a smart development approach. We call this a smart development approach. We need to stop. We need to respect the tuna. We need to see it for what it is. It is a solution for food security, protein security for the rest of the world. What has the rest of the world done with their tuna? They've basically depleted it. They've basically destroyed it. And what that does, it puts all the focus where? Onto our tuna. And what do? We succumb to the same old thinking. We said, yes, come and pay me 5 toya and take my tuna, which is worth billions. It's worth billions, and it's sustainable. It just keeps regenerating itself. So come on, logically, we stop allowing this billions of kina to escape from us. We stop allowing the destruction of such a beautiful and wonderful, God-given, sustainable asset, and we take charge and we manage that asset properly. And I think, and I keep telling the Forest Minister and everyone else who cares to listen, that we need to move quickly to the banning of transshipping of tuna catch, as an example. Responsible development means, again, for example, stopping the export of round logs. Stopping the export of round logs. And it's the same principle. We make approximately 150 million kina from export levies, from logs. And we allow the rape of our rainforest, just for that lousy 150 million kina. We should make a bold statement to the international community, who is crying for us to stop deforestation. If you come in and compensate us for that measly 150 million kina, we will stop the export of round logs. And we will only process onshore. And we will keep our forest, and you will pay for it, because it is providing you with oxygen and carbon sink and climate stability and biodiversity and all those things. So why do we just, instead of looking up and seeing these things, why do we constantly look down and say, aha, I can see 10 kina there, chop my tree down? We continue to look at forests as a log. It's not a log. It's a house with all those beautiful creatures and all that hidden biodiversity and solutions to cancer and all those things, oxygen, everything else. That's what a forest is. It's not just a log. It's not just a log. And again, let's be strategic. Let's recognize the strategic value of these resources, and let's make some genuine steps to protect what we have, which is the 3rd largest rainforest in the world and 7% of world biodiversity. My goodness, what a blessing. Let's not destroy it for the future generation. Responsible development even applies, of course, to the exploitation of our mineral and petroleum deposits. Mineral and petroleum deposits. These are things God has placed in the ground, and for some strange reason, every time I want to extract some of those resources, I've got to pay for it. I've got to go out and bring some foreign companies to come and dig it up, and then before I can participate in the wealth and benefit of those resources, I've got to pay for it. I've got to pay for something I already own. I've got to get billions of kina just to participate in the development of my own resources, for goodness sake. That's wrong. I already own the coconut, I already own the gold, I already own the silver. If you want to come and dig it up, you know, I'm going to take my share for free because I own it already. I don't have to pay for it. So we need to understand, we need to, not only that, but understand the fact that we are consuming these resources at an alarming rate. And that is why such things as the Sovereign Wealth Fund are very, very important. We can't just consume these things today. these things that are sitting in the ground, that are increasing in value every day, as we convert it into commercial assets, those assets must generate income streams that translate into the future, so future generations can benefit. Otherwise, we're just digging up the garden, roots and all, consuming it today, having a big party, getting drunk, dropping half of it on the side, wasting it, stealing it, whatnot, and the future generation will not benefit from it. And we are custodians. We are not owners. We are only custodians of these assets. All of these assets, including mineral and petroleum resources, we are here to benefit from them, and you leave the garden in a good state so our children can benefit. We leave the economy, we leave everything in a good shape for the future. We mustn't take the view that we own this. I'm going to eat it, I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to roll over, and who cares what happens tomorrow if I leave a mess? We can't do that. We must take responsibility. We must be leaders in responsible, sustainable development. Now, we talk about the other aspect I put up there, which is the low population. And again, I say, let's be smart and sensible. Many of our development issues are driven by the fact that we are producing more people, not only in Papua New Guinea, but globally, than this planet can sustain. So again, please, let's take leadership. Let's take responsibility. Let's start with ourselves. Let's get the population down to a stable level as part of the global solution, but as part of our own solution. And I am very passionate about this, and it's going to be one of our MOAs that we sign with Murray Stopes, because you and I know that if we give the woman the choice in terms of when they have children and how many children they have, it will make a massive impact in terms of her health, her children's health, her education, the stability of the family unit, and it will just, the repercussions and reverberations will just go all the way forward. So not only stabilizing population because of the impact generally, but because of the fundamental strengthening of the family unit, the fundamental strengthening of the females as an individual. And the females are the foundation of our Melanesian society. Let's all face it. Let's be realistic, you and me as men. Who does all the work at home? Come on. I think we should own up. Let's empower women. Let's give them charge over their lives. Let's not just talk about it. So in part of translating what I'm talking about today, we need to take actions today. Personal actions and collective actions. And some of the pilot programs that we are announcing is an attempt to translate this beyond just talking and speeches and fancy diagrams and all that. It is about starting now, immediately, with tangible results. I want Murray Stopes to go out and make contraception available to 40,000 girls and women this year, not next year and sometime in the future. We want to use the biodiesel example in Millennium Madang as an example of self-reliance principle there. Let's use our resources, let's convert them into jobs, let's convert them into cheaper fuel, let's pay our copra producers more money, and let's also produce a clean environment. There are some obvious solutions there, and we need to start on them today, not just talking about them. The April Salome project we want to talk about, and very importantly, as I close up my remarks, sorry to go too long, is the awareness campaign. So we're going to commence an awareness campaign through such NGOs as The Voice, through the Institute of Business Studies debating program, and through trying to get to the universities, trying to get to the villages. And what I want to do in this whole topic of what it means to be Papua New Guinean, we want to build up towards Independence Day. We want to have an Independence Week. We want to culminate the national debates. And we want to say to ourselves, these are the principles that make us proud Papua New Guineans. And then we celebrate Independence Day because we are proudly living those principles. And so there's a series of actions that we want to commence to make this strategy a strategy of action. And I appeal to all of us here today, please, let us join hands in this exercise. Let us join hands in participating in this development revolution. It is our country, it is our time, and it is our future.
Welcome back. An initiative of the Department of National Planning under the leadership of Minister Charles Abel, the National Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development, otherwise known as the Strategy, guides how PNG will adopt a paradigm shift in its economic development. Launching the strategy is one step in the right direction, but grasping it on a personal level is another. This is where Papua New Guineans must find a sense of ownership and sense of identifying with PNG ways. Minister Abel's representation of this is presented through the pidgin expression, PNG Mia, meaning PNG is me.
Is PNG Mia, Musat Mia, Yumitasolea? We've got to personalize this whole thing. No strategy will work unless it filters right down to how we practice our daily lives. And I keep saying it, we've got to live a principled existence. And we can't talk about a strategy, we can't talk about higher principles unless we personally adopt them. And this whole approach starts with you and me. We've got to personalize it, it's got to be a commitment. And that is why in terms of communicating to our people, in terms of a grassroots awareness program, we're starting with PNG Mia. PNG Mia.
The following prominent governors and speakers also spoke in support of the strategy. Dame Carol Kidu, Governor Powis Pakop, Governor Julie Soso, Governor Gary Jufa, Governor Jim Kass, and member for Usino Bundi, Anton Yagama.
The constraints for development becoming gateways to the future, as our voice said. What are the constraints of culture becoming gateways? How do we analyze the evolution, the interface between tradition and modernity? That interface between tradition and modernity is what is causing us so many difficulties in Papua New Guinea. And I don't believe we've analysed that enough. And so this will naturally become a part here of the strategy, because the Honourable Minister has set that as a logical thing to happen, analysing the interface between tradition and modernity and how we can define new Papua New Guinea. We can be the greatest nation in the world. I always say this. And I said it once with the American ambassador sitting near where our honourable governor is sitting. I said, yes, we can be greater than the United States of America. And it was mainly a Papua New Guinean audience. And I thought, oh, God, she's gone completely mad this time. She's lost it, you know. And then I said, I did not say the richest nation. I did not say the most powerful nation. But we could be the greatest nation if we can take the best of the old world with the best of the new world and bring it into modern Papua New Guinea. And we have not yet done that. We've allowed other agendas to drive us instead of us taking ownership of the agenda. And this is where the voice said, those constraints must become gateways. And the way we are abusing customs, somehow we have to learn how to take that into control. Congratulations, Minister. It's an exciting document, very exciting, for a sustainable and responsible future for Papua New Guinea.
And this is the world that gave us Einstein. This is the world that gave us the atomic bomb. And Einstein not only came up with the formula to split the atom, but he also gave us a reminder in which our colleague, I think in the last term, Minister, you know, one of our colleagues in the last term, Bart Philemon always reminds us about the definition of madness. Einstein also reminds us of the definition of madness, that if you keep on using the same method expecting a different outcome, then you are mad. You are mad. And for 38 years, we have been following this model that we can integrate all our people into the global wealth economy of supply and demand and meeting the consumer needs of people. And we got to cut all our resources and, you know, sell it, and then we will have a better life. It's not working out there for the entire global economy. Okay, let's put it this way and put it in another dimension. Imagine if all our resources run out. All our extractive resources, gold, copper, oil, and gas run out. Can we tomorrow become like China and start industrializing and exporting something? Governor, what do you think? It is not possible. I don't see us, Papua New Guinea, becoming an industrialized nation. We've got to be frank and place ourselves squarely in this global market, what it is, global economy, what it is, and where we have placed it. I can't see us becoming an industrial nation because we can't compete with China and United States and Germany in industrialization.
After having a lot of strategies and the Vision 2050 and our other strategies and provincial strategies and local level government presidents also strategizing with their plans on how to deliver. We need to have a way forward that is nationally focused, and I just want to thank the National Planning Minister for this forum again so that we can look at the way forward now, going back to our constitution, the preambles that is already set by our founding leaders. That's our guiding pillars. And I want to commend you, National Planning Minister, for bringing us all together here. And before I want to start, I also want to bring to the people in this forum here and also our people in this nation, especially the spiritual side of development. We have the physical side and we have the spiritual development too, where it's taking place, and we have our missionaries who have come in already, and somebody had already presented it in his presentation that we ate the missionaries too when they first came here. But they have left a lot of foundation for us to take off from there, and currently I just want us to go back and revisit some words that have come biblically and spiritually that for our nation. And Papua New Guinea is a nation that will be the head and never be the tail. And it comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 13. We will always be the head and never be the tail. Naiga talk prophecy to Igo one time also. Papua New Guinea will begin to export and not import. And I thank you that this kind of forum will find a way forward for us now, Papua New Guinea, to begin to export and not to import anymore.
Certainly our economy is growing. Certainly it's doing very well. We are told this in the media quite frequently, but we have to ask ourselves as leaders, who is it doing well for? Is it doing well for the ordinary person? The villager who lives in a remote district where he has no classroom or aid post, where he barely has a road or a bridge? Is it doing well for him? That economy that we are constantly speaking about? Who is it doing well for? These are questions that we must ask ourselves. How can we translate that economic development in such a way that that person in that village, in that remote area can truly say, yes, my economy is doing well and I am part of it. I'm helping in moving that economy forward. I'm heartened by the fact that we have a lot of very intelligent and capable Papua New Guineans. Some of them are in parliament, and they're doing the best they can. And you know, if we all work together and support one another, we can achieve great things. We can achieve much. What I would like to advise is whatever it is that we're doing, our planning, our strategies, our tactics that we're developing, we have to make a concerted effort to inform our people. If you don't do that, our people tend to make up their own stories, and we all know about that. They will make up their own stories and they will theorize about what it is that we are doing or not doing. So it is incumbent upon us as leaders to make an effort to educate our people, to inform them about what it is that we're doing so that we can harness their resources. We can grab them and take them along with us and they can move the economy forward. Because an ignorant people are people who can easily be fooled. And ignorant people can also work against you if you're not careful. So that is something that I just wanted to point out. A lesson that I'm learning as a first-time politician. If you don't inform your people, they make up their own stories. And in my province, we are known for making up stories. If rumor and rhetoric were a sport, we would be gold medal winners, I guarantee it. I believe that we need to also make a concerted effort to review and modernize the government machinery that exists so that it can actually deliver the programs that we believe should be delivered to our people. Much of our government public service machinery is broken down. It's rusted. It was given to us in 1975, and here we are pushing it, hoping to get somewhere. The fact of the matter is it needs to be modernized. It needs to be refined. It needs to be improved so that we can match our regional partners and everyone else in the world who are driving SUVs, nuclear-powered, while we're pushing this old wheelbarrow. So therefore, it is my belief that it's a concerted effort that we must all make, that we have to review our systems and improve them, modernize them, so that they actually work.
I am standing here, and on my left is a partner. The national government speaks about partnership, and I have merit. I have actually implemented the Triple P program, and I am here with them. There is a program a book which I have given to some of you, and there is a leaflet that I have also produced as an overview. My provincial government has produced as an overview with my partners. I would like to also acknowledge OSAID. OSAID went through the Australian government, USAID, the LEAF program, the national government of Papua New Guinea, my CSO forum in Medan, RAFT, and the Nature Conservancy. They are the partners which I have used to producing this booklet which I have here. And whatever the minister and the department and the national government has been talking about, the Medan provincial government has taken a bold step in asking partners to grounding the thoughts that the national government has always been preaching about. We in Medan have gone a step further by producing this booklet, coming up with this booklet in line with Vision 2050 and the other medium-term plans that we have had. So I will have the privilege of giving this to my fellow members of parliament as a token of my challenge and appreciation to them, so that we can be able to do whatever we are doing in Medan to implementing whatever the minister is trying to get at. And I believe grounding it at LLG levels in the provinces is the thrust of what the minister is trying to say, what the department is trying to say here. I will leave it with Mr. Kelly Khalid, who was a government advisor before, and he is with the Nature Conservancy. He is representing the partners who have helped us produce a map for Medan, so that we could, a bit of it is shown here. Unfortunately, I cannot have it displayed here, but I have some copies of the report which we have produced. It's with me and it's in the car. If you want it, please come and ask Kelly and he will produce some report. We have produced maps and we have also produced three-dimensional figures of a particular LLG in Medan to assist with planning in the province, so that it assists with us achieve whatever we have to achieve in Medan province. And we are also thinking about extending the program with assistance from national government to the Momase provinces, and then extending it to the Bismarck Maritime provinces, which includes Milne Bay, Oro province, Manus, New Island, East, West New Britain, Sundown. Well, I already mentioned the Sundown, Momase provinces. So we are trying to extend these same thoughts to them so that we implement whatever we think is what the national government is trying to do. So whatever I have here is an overview of what we have done, or is a product of what we have done in coming up with a plan to assisting Vision 2050 and the other plans. So I will hand it over to Mr. Khalid, and he will assist me with what the partners can do in assisting governments.
I'll just tell you a little story just to elaborate on what is happening. A couple of years back, I had the chance to play golf with Sitiveni Rabuka, the Prime Minister of Fiji. As we came down the golf course, he saw a ship sailing out. And he asked me, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, that is a log ship." And then he stopped in his track and he told me this story. He said, "I got a 20-toya pen and signed a multi-billion kina deal. When I signed that, banning log exports. When I signed that, all the Western media said that I was crazy. But he said, I knew exactly what I was doing. I was doing it for my people."
Thanks for your company. In this last segment of our documentary on this strategy, we see how various partnerships will translate the strategy into action. Accompanying the Prime Minister in a show of support towards the strategy were members of Parliament and Cabinet Ministers. The Minister for Environment and Conservation and the newly appointed Minister for Forests announced commitments and plans of the departments that align with the strategy.
To abate this serious decline and degradation, the 1991 Forest Policy and Forestry Act has determined that the use of Papua New Guinea's commercial forest resource is harvested on a sustained yield basis. Using the average means and annual growth rate for mixed tropical rainforest, 3.5 million cubic meters has been fixed as Papua New Guinea's annual sustainable forest for its commercial use. Commercial forest. A 35-year cutting cycle is mandatory and applicable in all forest management and alignments-based operations. What we are basically saying here is when a logging company comes and cuts the log in this area or harvests the log here, you don't come back and harvest it within the 35 years. You have to wait until after 35 years, then you come back to the area again.
The Department of Environment and Conservation is moving rapidly towards developing a national protected area system policy as its key strategy for protecting our biodiversity. The National Protected Area System policy is underpinned by several concepts, including the need to develop benefit sharing agreements with communities. Let me repeat that. The need to develop benefit sharing agreements with communities, our people, our landowners, without which we will fail everything that we aspire for in the name of conserving and protecting our biodiversity. The need to develop benefit sharing agreements with communities in a similar manner to the resource industries like forestry and mining. So there is a shared commitment to protecting that biodiversity. We need for a stronger legal framework for the regulation of areas established as protected areas. Development of a biodiversity offsets policy so that the resource industries will pay for irreversible and long-term damage they cause to our ecosystems. This policy will eventually be broadened into a payment for ecosystem services policy, which will extend the policy to water and carbon issues.
Partnerships are key to making the strategy work. This will be addressed through intervention programs that attempt to translate the strategy into action. These programs will address population stabilization, carbon trade, green growth, grassroots awareness programs, clean energy, and strategic policy.
And some of the pilot programs that we are announcing is an attempt to translate this beyond just talking and speeches and fancy diagrams and all that. It is about starting now, immediately, with tangible results.
Maori Stopes pledged their cooperation with the national government to address the increasing population with family planning measures. This aims to empower PNG women to have children by choice and not by chance.
I want Maori Stopes to go out and make contraception available to 40,000 girls and women this year, not next year and sometime in the future.
On behalf of the government of Papua New Guinea, Maori Stopes Papua New Guinea will be providing services to 20,000 women, men and young people in National Capital District, Central Province, Madang Province, Morobe Province, Southern Highlands Province, Anga Province, and here in Milne Bay. To ensure access for all, a huge range of family planning information and services will be provided, including tubal ligation, vasectomy, intrauterine device and removal, implant insertion and removal, emergency contraceptives, contraceptive injectables, or more commonly known as DEPO, oral contraceptive pills, and the male and female condoms. Access to family planning is the right of every man, woman, and young person. Today, the government of Papua New Guinea is taking the first step to expanding access to family planning to everyone in Papua New Guinea.
Harnessing the power of the youth, The Voice Inc. will work with young people and the grassroots on awareness programs to ensure that individual ownership is placed upon the strategy.
Having a vision and strategy is fine, it's the first step. But the next step is getting all Papua New Guineans to take ownership of this concept so that we're all working towards achieving this one strategy, this one vision of Vision 2050. So how do we encourage a sense of ownership of this concept? Now, we believe that in order to achieve this, we need to create more enabling environments, more spaces where people, not only young people, can talk and discuss, generate and plan ideas on how to make this strategy work. We believe that if people are given these spaces and opportunities, they can contribute and take ownership of this strategy.
As one of the first RED projects in the Pacific region, the April Salome RED project in East Sepik Province is approved to the Verified Carbon Standards, which is a quality standard for the voluntary carbon offset industry.
So we've started this project, as we said, probably about 5 years ago, and one of the things that we've done is there's been an enormous amount of publicity for a while there in Papua New Guinea about carbon cowboys and what people were doing and weren't doing, and I think some of that was fair. I don't think there was any question about that. But one of the things we've done is working through forestry and through climate change, we've kept our head down and just kept chipping away at this project quietly. In doing that, we've managed to achieve validation to the climate, community and biodiversity standards to the gold level for exceptional biodiversity benefits, and we've just recently received approval to the verified carbon standard. So that means we now physically have carbon credits or verified carbon units on a registry that allows us to then market and start to sell those carbon credits once we've ticked all the boxes with the government here. But we do have those sitting in on our registry now, so we have that approval. It's probably the first project in the Pacific, well, it is the first project in the Pacific, a RED project in the Pacific out that's has Indigenous people in it. So it's pretty significant. And it's one of the few in the world that actually has ownership and management with Indigenous people.
In line with the green growth development revolution, the utilisation of clean energy is underway with palm oil as a potential feedstock to the biofuel industry.
In the palm oil industry, we can do exactly the same. We estimate in West New Britain we could produce somewhere in the region of 25 megawatts of power as a feedstock in from this biofuel source from the refinery. When you consider that West New Britain as a total only consumes currently 7 megawatts of power, then it puts it into perspective of what the potential is of this industry.
We want to use the biodiesel example in Milamban Madang as an example of self-reliance principle there. Let's use our resources, let's convert them into jobs, let's convert them into cheaper fuel, let's pay our copper producers more money, and let's also produce a clean environment. There are some obvious solutions there, and we need to start on them today, not just talking about them. The April Salome project we want to talk about, and very importantly, as I close up my remarks, sorry to go too long, is the awareness campaign. So we're going to commence an awareness campaign through such NGOs as The Voice, through the Institute of Business Studies debating program, and through trying to get to the universities, trying to get to the villages. And what I want to do in this whole topic of what it means to be Papua New Guinean, we want to build up towards Independence Day. We want to have an Independence Week. We want to culminate the national debates, and we want to say to ourselves, these are the principles that make us proud Papua New Guineans, and then we celebrate Independence Day because we are proudly living those principles. And so there's a series of actions that we want to commence to make this strategy a strategy of action.
This strategy links PNG back to the wisdom of the past. It is a bold step for a nation so young, yet so full of potential, to be a leader in the world.
Let's unite as one nation. country.
Our time.
Our future.
We can be leaders, not followers.
PNG and Mia.
PNG and Mia.
PNG and Mia.
The National Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development, an initiative of the Department of National Planning and Monitoring.
That ends Resource PNG. We hope you enjoyed our episode on the National Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development and how it seeks to undertake a paradigm shift in economic development. If you have any comments or queries, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Or to find out more, check MTV online, that's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Or you can check our page on Facebook. Until the same time next week, bye for now.